Metafix is a show that teaches you how to think in the metagame. I am not here to give you the answers, nor am I going to tell you how to win. Metafix teaches you how to play in the metagame and how to react around the metagame and what is in the metagame. If you're looking for the answers, try HC Realms, check the forums, they have all kinds of neat toys and tools and teams being brought up, and check the results of a lot of the ROC tournaments or any Worlds tournaments to see how teams played out and what teams were used for. I'm just here to help you think. I have a motto for this episode at the end of every episode lately. And it's called Practice Makes Your Team Better. But this isn't necessarily with regards to practice. Let's talk about it that way. Full-blown knowledge of the full effect of your characters is one of the most important things going into a game. One of those things that tends to happen sometimes in games is characters will miss that something one of the characters that they put on their team does actually extends beyond what they think it does, or is actually has more effect in a later game or after they've taken damage. Because a lot of the time, a lot of characters put a lot of stock in the early part of the dial. And there's a whole dial to your characters. And if they take damage and they're still alive, counting them out of the fight is one of the worst things you can do. Ignoring a character because they've taken some damage is just going to feed your opponent points. So it's a matter of knowing how deep your characters go, how well they go, and what they do throughout the dial. Now, one of the things you always want to avoid in a game is having a one-dimensional character. And when I say a one-dimensional character, a lot of you guys instantly probably thought of a character like the Star Labs Technician. She's got sidestep and telekinesis on her first click, and she's got the ability to give precision strike, but let's not lie. You are, as a general whole, going to be using the TK a lot. Now, what happens here is knowledge of this character's full base can really go a long way. Now, it's not a deep dial. It's 3 clicks, I believe. Yeah, if this character takes 3 clicks, she's dead. The first click we all know, the telekinesis, as well as the ability to give precision strike or toughness as a power action. So that's really cool. I don't know if a lot of you guys are thinking about it, but Shatterstar is still out there, guys. And more so now because there is a team that he pretty much needs to be in the game to fight against. As there's a team that actually kind of sticks around in the starting area and punishes you for being in the game. That said, the Star Labs Technician does have an excellent secondary function with regards to precision strike. Being able to give precision strike if your opponent brings it to your face is important because sometimes there's characters that Shatterstar will bring in that have super senses and you want to get around that. Or sometimes they have a defense modifier and you need to get around that too. So as long as you can do that minimal damage or get through any kind of super sense that they happen to bring with him, you've got that covered. Now, as well, a Star Labs Technician, if you happen to push to get all your characters out there with TK while she's still in the starting area, moves on to 14 defense with defend and support. Now, the way that is amazing is that defend is replacing a defense value. A replaced value is not a modified value. Something I'm sure Amber would like to cover in an episode as well. The difference between a replace... Okay, or she has covered in an episode that I'm sure she'll put below. A replaced value is not a modified value. There's an absolute distinct difference between that. Which means if I perplex up my defense, I don't get to use... Or perplex down your defense, my defense... I don't get to use a perplex down defense when I'm attempting to use support. But if I have defend on my character and I drop their defense down to a minimal amount, well, then she becomes a lot better at using support as she'll have an 8 attack versus a 14 defense versus an 8 attack against most 16, 17 defenses. Now, of course, that does run the gamut of being a problem when if your opponent is too close, but if you're using support and your opponent is close, well, you've got bigger problems than you trying to use support. As well, a lot of characters miss this, and I'm going to go back in time slightly to the question from the Trinity of Sin team base from the con exclusive one. Now, he's a good dial overall. He's got a really effective double perplex power. But what a lot of characters that I've played, or players that I've played against using this character miss, is that he's got this awesome trait where you can take a power that's on his card, not on the dial, but on the card, and he can use it. And this is not limited to any particular slot. You can use it in any slot as long as that power is on his card. And then all you've got to do is lose the ability to use one of the powers on this card. Now, sometimes, a lot of places on this dial, there are powers that aren't ideal for the situation. His first click has Smoke Cloud, and using a power action to use Smoke Cloud for question when he is what he is isn't an optimal way to use him. Oftentimes you'll hear me get rid of that Smoke Cloud, and I will replace it with Flurry. Charge and Flurry now. If I find myself on defensive, I replace that Smoke Cloud with Plasticity. Kind of see where we can go with this. Now, granted, there isn't a single time that I haven't wished that he had Poison or Precision Strike on that dial. I tell you what. But knowing the full value of a character is very important. Do you know how many people don't know that Kyle Rayner has 9 bloody range? That is huge. I've played against so many people who go, he has how much range? In fact, if you go back to in time, Amber didn't realize that Kyle Rayner had a massive 9 range and could have smoked my Ophidian for a lot of damage should she have hit and not really felt much in the way of retaliation, especially if she would have used Perplex trickily. So, it's one thing to know your character's stats, it's another to know your character's stats. Numbers are good and important to know, and knowing the maximum amount that you can use those numbers is also important. If Kyle Rayner has a 9 range and he shoots against a guy with 8 range, you run a really high probability of if you hit at that 9 range, that 8 range character might lose their move and attack ability. And then they're now at 8 range outside of the range of Kyle Rayner, unless they have sidestep, which I consider a move and attack nowadays, or another click or running shot deep down the dial. You've now put yourself in a safe position. Safe positions are an important place to be. Another episode to be talked about later, which will involve a map and poker token, poker chips, and awesome stuff. Captain Marvel, often seen as a dude who makes guys 19 defense. Not bad, not terrible. Did you know he stops guys from attacking too? If he hits a character with a ranged combat attack, he stops a character from being able to attack. For 82 points, you get a guy that makes your team very hard to hit, and a guy that makes it impossible for some characters to attack if he can consistently get some hits off. Now, this is not quite the easy way of doing it with Highfather or Turtle, where you're going to stop guys from doing stuff altogether, because you do have to get the hit. But he's got a 3 damage, so there isn't a single character that he can't damage, unless you got an opponent who's consistently rolling impervious rolls or super senses. I can't discount that. Those things happen. I'm sorry. It's not my fault. But always know the full potential of your figure, especially when you talk about a figure who has the full potential of all figures. The Super Skrull, and I forgot to bring her down, but Engineer. The fact that they get a full menu of movement, attack, defense, and damage powers, I don't even know how to describe how awesome that is. Whenever you need a power, they can have it. Whenever you don't need a power, they don't have to have it. Now, Super Skrull runs a higher risk than Engineer, and Engineer is also risking the fact that she doesn't allow defense powers. So, where Super Skrull runs the risk of doing damage to himself, Engineer runs the risk of, being Engineer. Now, Super Skrull isn't bad because of this, because never forget, if he can get consistent damage coming from the zombie Super Skrull, imagine, if you will, the amount of effect you're going to get with regards to countering powers and then starting to gain your opponent's characters and then starting to collect food tokens. So even if you are in a bad position with him, you haven't chosen to heal, and your opponents aren't packing Pulse Wave, you're coming back. You're in a safe place to come right back. You need a Pulse Wave at a time, he's got Pulse Wave. So you can see where everything is kind of fits together for a character like Super Skrull or Engineer. Just know what you need at the time with these characters. So characters like Question, characters like Super Skrull, characters like Engineer, know what you can do with them when you need to do them, because they have the most flexibility, and understand the flexibility and purpose of the characters that you have as well. Kyle Rayner's dual attack power is really great. Just know where you need to be. If you're playing with constructs and your opponent decides they're going to choose stealth with Engineer, maybe it's time to take a turn off and switch to an Indigo Spotlight, because who needs to deal with that, right? Also pointing out a mistake I made way back in the game, and I just realized a great way to correct it. So use that movement to stay out of danger, and at the same time, keep your opponent in danger. Know that Star Labs Technician has a lot of... Know what your character is fully capable of. Knowing what the top dial is, that's great. Knowing what the mid dial is amazing. Knowing what the late dial is could win you games. In the meantime, guys, like I said at the beginning of this episode, and like I say at the end of every episode, winning makes your team better. Of course, winning makes your team better. Practice makes your team better. The opinions and thoughts brought to you in Metafix are not meant for the casual game at the table. Married with Clix is proudly sponsored by Majestic's Comics, Collectibles, and Games, located in Costa Mesa, California, near the Orange County Fairgrounds. If you don't happen to live in the Costa Mesa, California area, though, you can check out their website, linked down below, majesticccg.com, where you can check out all kinds of stuff to shop for, their regular tournament listings if you happen to live in the area, or if you need to shop, they've always got some Heroclix stuff if you check out both their eBay store, which is linkable in the website, as well as their online store, which I believe should be having product added soon enough. Also, they keep regular articles written by some of the great minds in Heroclix, including Adam Friedman, the 2014 Heroclix Nationals champ, and of course, the owner of the store, Patrick Yabjoko, the 2014 Heroclix Worlds champ, 2014 Team Worlds champion, as well as the 2014 DragonCon ROC champion. Wow, that's quite a year he had last year. I think he's going to repeat it in 2015, right? So, don't forget to check the link down below, or check out the store if you live in the area.